Welcome back to Joel's Sports Cards. Today we have another installment in the 5C series, conversations with content creators in the card community, and we are featuring NalterCards, aka NalterDeeds. Nalter, say hi to the people.
Joel, thank you so much for having me. What's up to the people? I feel like on my streams, I have a soundboard that I have like all these sounds I can play. I needed the air horns for that intro right there, where it's like the air horns just blasting while you're jumping in with like the smoke and like the fog machine. So anyway, lucky to be here. Thanks for having me.
I usually just throw in my own air horns without a real soundboard because I have no idea how to click buttons. I just literally am surprised anytime a stream works, even remotely.
I feel you.
We love to ask the question, how did you get the name NalterDeeds as your YouTube channel? What came of that? Why did you come up with it?
So it's a very interesting story, and you're going to like this because you and I actually kind of know each other. I mean, it's been like over 10 years since probably any form of contact, but it's actually related to how we know each other, which is why I think you're going to like the answer. So growing up, my name is Nate, first and foremost. I was born Nathan, but go by Nate. And so that's always been my go-to name. And then when I started going to a new church, I had two different groups of friends, one of which called me Walter because they thought I looked like Haley Joel Osment in Secondhand Lions as a kid, like not like now, but like as a kid. And, you know, we're both older now, so probably doesn't hold up. But at the time, that was one reason. And then another group of friends at the same church, it was kind of two different age groups. The second one would call me Deeds because they knew somebody else whose last name was their name was Nate Diedrich. And even though that wasn't my name, they also just called me that. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense. But anyway, so I have Nate, Walter, and Deeds. I'm up at church camp. Shout out Covenant Pines.
Shout out.
And I'm with all these different groups of friends. My brother's calling me Nate. The groups are calling me different things. And someone that we met that week was like, "What is your name? Like, why do you have so many names?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And that person was like, "Let's just combine them all." And so that's where NalterDeeds was born, because it's Nate, Walter, and Deeds all in one. Ever since then, that was probably like 2008, 2009. That's been my Xbox gamer tag, which was kind of my first official stint on YouTube was related to gaming. And so that's kind of where the name came from. And I've used it ever since over the past 10, 12 years and have just kind of dropped the deeds in a lot of things and then added Nalter to whatever thing I'm doing, whether it's cards or games or whatever.
Dude, that is an incredible story and so hashtag church camp that it's just like, it doesn't make sense, but in your sphere, it's everything.
Exactly.
That's too awesome. So you also in that tied into that you started out really streaming video games. That's like a decade ago that you're doing that, and you take a large break and then all of a sudden get back. If you look at your NalterDeeds channel, then there's all of a sudden you're opening up Joe Burrow and Ja Morant cards. What happens in the switch from streaming video games, totally understand that genre, to just I'm gonna rip sports cards?
Yeah, that in and of itself could be probably a 30-40 minute answer, but I'll give you the short version. So I started out, I've always had an affinity for YouTube ever since it first came out. I've been on the platform since 2006 in different capacities. And I was kind of on the first like leg of gaming on YouTube, the origins of Optic, the origins of FaZe Clan. Minecraft had just kind of come out in like beta, so like I was doing some of these things and was like making videos about them because I thought it was cool that other people did it, and I was like, oh, I could figure that out. And I actually had some mild success with it, but it was during my junior year of high school at its peak. I at the time wanted to be a doctor, and school was starting to be on the back burner. So I said, you know what, in order to move forward, I need to stop doing YouTube stuff and focus on school to get to where I want to be. Got to college, didn't want to be a doctor anymore. And it's one of my biggest regrets is stopping the YouTube stuff. It was the right decision at the time, but that is why I stopped, because a lot of people that continued on then went on to be very successful in it as kind of the pioneers in the space. So some of that coulda, shoulda, would ya, but that will also factor into later in the story as far as why I got back in. And then as far as I had the channel for 10 years, and during COVID, all of us were kind of at home, couldn't really do a whole lot, wasn't seeing friends as much as I'd like. People like Gary Vee and Logan Paul and other, you could say influencers in the space were getting back into cards and encouraging people to go dig up what they have in their parents' basement. Unfortunately for me, my mom threw away my entire collection of early origin Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball Z. My brother was always more of the sports card collector, but a lot of his stuff got thrown away. I had some stuff that I had bought from Schindler's back in the day that I still have rookie cards of, like Tracy McGrady, Kobe Bryant, Yao Ming. So like I do have some of my remnant sports cards that like I kept in a special box. So that's like that's the entirety of like my childhood collection, even though thousands of dollars are either in a dumpster or with a kid down the street from us probably. But anyway, so people were getting back into it. I was like, I had streamed on Twitch a few times just for fun. I've always enjoyed just video streaming, anything in that realm. And so I said, why don't I buy some stuff? I'm going to open it anyway. I might as well stream it. People can watch if they want. It was all people that knew me already. But I was like, and if I pull something good, sweet, I'll record it and I'll post it as a highlight on YouTube. And you never know where it could go. Honestly, like that's just kind of, you do things not necessarily because it's going to yield a huge return right away, but you're just like, maybe it turns into something. We'll see where it goes. Little did I know that was going to change my whole freaking life, because I had uploaded a few highlights. Like you mentioned, I pulled a big Joe Burrow card, numbered out of 5, rookie auto. I pulled a Cha Morant card that I actually submitted to PSA, came back as a PSA 10 gold sparkle variation. It's a pop 1. I don't know what it's worth, but it's a pretty decently sized card between those two. And that was really the only, I uploaded them to the same channel that I had done all my gaming stuff on, and was just like, whatever, that's cool. January 1st. And that was all the fall of 2020, just for context. January 1st, 2021 rolls around. Normal day, it's New Year's Day, whatever. And around 2 or 3 o'clock, I get a text from my niece that I got a shout out from Mr. Beast, like all caps. And I'm like, I know who Mr. Beast is, but like I've never talked with him. I didn't enter a contest. I'm like, he's not the biggest YouTuber on the platform, but he's probably the YouTuber with the most momentum, because at the time, I think he was just about to hit 50 million subscribers. As of the recording of this, he's about to hit 100 million in a little bit more than a year. He's doubled in size. So in his YouTube Rewind 2020 video, he made it has over 50, I don't even know anymore, 60 million views. And I was included at the end. He pulled 3 names out of a jar, 3 YouTube channels that were small YouTubers, just to give him a shout out. And over the course of 24 hours from the time that video went live, I gained over 100,000 subscribers on that channel. And then over the course of a week, when it finally kind of like died out from the initial hype, I hit 140,000 subscribers. So that was not anything that I expected. And going back to, sometimes you just kind of have to, people get lucky, but it's also preparing yourself to be in positions to get lucky. And so that's kind of what I chalked that up to, is I never would have been found. I don't know how I was found in the first place if I hadn't re-engaged that channel. And it was insane. For the next 72 hours, I slept not more than 6 hours total. Like I was going back to work at my full-time job. I was working for an advertising agency. That was a pretty high demanding job. And so I was like, well, most people in my position would probably try and do this like full time, like try and just take advantage of the opportunity. And so I really started to do as much as I could while maintaining my job. My wife is in veterinary school, so it's not like I could just abandon it entirely. Was making some money on the channel, but like it's not life-changing money in the sense that like I could just forget anything else was going on and just live off of that. Like it was a few $100s, maybe $1,000 a month for the first couple of months. But I kept doing what I was doing. I was opening box of primarily Pokemon cards. I did sports every now and again, but because I was so focused on Pokemon as a kid, that's just kind of where I chose to spend my time and where my enjoyment was. And as time went on, I noticed like I was mixing in other forms of content because I didn't really know what I wanted to do on that channel. I wasn't trying to be a YouTuber. when the shout out happened. It was just, I was doing it for fun. And it as things went on, both every video that I'd post, but especially anything card related, it started to do extremely not well on the channel. And that was kind of when I learned the hard way that subscribers does not necessarily mean views. It's, and a lot of the people that subscribe to me, 99.9% of the people that subscribe to me did not follow me because they liked my content. They followed because Mr. Beast told them to, which very thankful for, very appreciative of. But it was kind of a humbling lesson in that this did happen. It can be a spark for something bigger, but you're not like in the clear yet. So I actually decided to create a second channel called NalterCards, and start doing everything card related on that channel, because YouTube works in a way that the people that subscribe to you, they should know you for kind of what you do. And if I had cards in my title, it just figured it would make more sense. And then that way it would prevent people from subscribing to me for the wrong reasons. And although that channel is smaller than the big one, it definitely has been the right move, because quality of subscribers is way more important than quantity of subscribers. And I can confidently say that I've built a very strong, small community on that channel. And I've been doing that. I think I started that channel in June of 2021. And then 2 or 3 months later, things were going well enough, and I had this opportunity on my plate that I decided I'd been at my company for 5 years and was just kind of at a point I couldn't do that and the YouTube stuff full time, and not I wanted to give whatever I'm going to do my all, and I couldn't give half of myself to two different things. So I gave a 2 months notice and said, hey, there's not really any reason I'm doing this other than I feel like I have always wanted to do this. And going back to what I said earlier about one of my biggest regrets in life is not continuing with it the first time. And this almost felt like a second chance of like, it literally is I won the YouTube lottery. And even though I didn't have everything figured out, it's like, if this isn't a kick in the pants, like you're not paying attention. So I quit my job. Things were going well. My biggest month in terms of, as far as how I was making money, it's not necessarily from views and ad revenue, but actually doing breaks, selling packs, boxes on my site, opening them for people on my live streams. And so my main monetization method had nothing to actually do with YouTube outside of that was just my given platform of how people could watch me. And so a lot of people see my sub count and they're like, how on earth have you quit your job? And because I only have like 2,700 subscribers on that channel, but not to say that every single one of those people have bought from me, but a lot of them have. And a lot of those people do buy semi-consistently. And so just being able to kind of take advantage of that opportunity and bring entertainment to the space, because I see myself first and foremost as an entertainer. And that's the value that I bring to the breaks outside of whatever cards you can pull. And so I started doing that in October full time. And then November was triple what I had done in October, and December was quadruple what I had done in October. So obviously a big part of that was the retail season, and the card market was as hot as could be. And now things have started to wind down a little bit. Just, I think that the industry and the hobby was a little burnt out from just being so hot for multiple years in a row. Plus everything that's going on with the economy right now. I think that cards are a luxury purchase. So definitely still making it work right now, but it's been a journey, and that's kind of where I'm at. So long-winded answer. How'd I do?
You're great, man. It's a story that is so worth telling, and that's why I'm grateful that you're willing to be on this interview. It's a point that we all need to remember, right? That the easy fix isn't what actually gets you to where you want to go. That it's actually developing a community and a personality that is connecting to an audience that's on a screen, right? It takes work. It doesn't happen overnight. Did you see in those first couple months a change in yourself where you're like, hey, I'm not just like ripping packs and seeing what happens, but I'm starting to intentionally think, how do I connect with these people? And what was that process like of you trying to actually do the hard work?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was like drinking from a fire hose for the first couple of months, just because I was like scrambling of, okay, what have I done? I need to make this work now. It's not a matter of, oh, this is fun and I'm making a little bit money, but like I need to keep what I've been doing and not change that experience in the net for the negative of like trying to make money, but being able to grow it and make it more profitable while growing the experience for people and wanting people to come back. And a big piece of that is the community, which I would say the biggest pieces for that have been Twitter. For me, is huge. It's definitely the best platform as far as engagement between people within a particular hobby, whether it's video games, cards, movies, tech, whatever you want. I found that Twitter is actually the best way for finding other people that are into what you're into, and the best way to kind of get your content pushed out. TikTok is also good, but in a different way, less about community, more about just reaching people. And then Discord is actually huge too, as far as providing a platform for people to kind of congregate. It's called the Nalter Gang community. Like that's my grouping of individuals, of people that they like what I do, but they also like what each other do. And so whether or not like I log into it, people are talking about cards, there's buy, sell, trade. People are posting pictures of their dog cuddled up on the couch, what they had for lunch, and being able to kind of really embrace that has been kind of like the X factor of actually building more than just a stream, but a community that exists outside of me. And it's alive, even if I'm not always in it. And so I think that's kind of the two main things as far as what I've been like focusing on, as well as, for so long, right when I started, I was streaming 30 hours a week, 25 hours a week, a couple different nights. And that I was basically just doing as much as I could. And I would go to bed. I'd start at 6 p.m. and I'd go to bed at 2, 3 in the morning. And then as we got more into 2022, things have slowed down a little bit. So trying to get a little bit smarter with streaming, not necessarily streaming as much, but just making better decisions as far as what we're selling and when we're selling it. And then having more time to actually put into content, because streaming is a really good way of building community and maintaining community outside of actually ripping the packs. It's a way for people to hang out with people that they're familiar with. But no one in this day and age is going to get big just from streaming. You have to have other, whether it's YouTube, whether it's TikTok, whether it's whatever platform, but actually posting other things outside of it. Because it's as it stands right now, YouTube, Twitch, doesn't matter, Facebook, do not have good organic reach when it comes to people finding you while you're streaming. You kind of have to grow in other ways. And then when they find you, then they can come hang out on streams.
Totally, man. And that's what is the benefit of people hearing this story, right? Because a lot of the people that are in my sub count are non-monetized YouTube channels, right? Like we've formed a community, other people that have been on this 5C series, people that are like, hey, we're trying to go about this. Some of it's just like you're helping each other figure it out on the go, which is the big community of it all and the fun of it all. So for those people who are watching this and listening, it's great for them to hear what you've done and had success, and what people would think was success that you were like, no, man, it didn't actually achieve anything. Yep. If you were to go back to yourself before the Mr. Beast shout out, what would you want that person to know or think about or be ready for as they were trying to prepare for what you said really well, right? Putting yourself in a position to get lucky. What would you want young Nalt to know?
Yeah. So, and I should almost, it's phrasing this for someone else that wants to potentially do what I do or what someone like I does. So I would say there's so many people that do what I do, whether it's creating videos about cards or streaming me opening cards or doing box breaks. And I think that you have to find a differentiator as far as why somebody is going to want to follow you versus somebody else. And so one of my biggest pet peeves is like, there's just so many people that do the exact same thing the exact same way. And there's not really any differentiation other than, maybe someone is selling something for a slightly lower price if you're doing a box break or whatever. And that's fine. But I think that there's just so much more that goes into it. And so I think establishing it is about what you care about, what you are good at, and how you want to kind of come across on the internet, even if you're not going to be there for a year or 2 or 3 or more. It's like, well, eventually I want to be this, and then establishing that, and then just taking baby steps day by day. I'm a perfectionist, and it's honestly it's good and bad. I would say it's more bad than good, because so often I end up not doing things because I feel like it's not up to my own standard. But then I don't end up posting something for a week or 2 or 3 or months in some cases, or I just don't end up doing it altogether. And I know from everybody that I've studied in the YouTube and just content space, it's so much more about quantity than quality when you're starting out, which is kind of a weird way of looking at it. But you have to, you fall and you fail faster when you do things more often, and you have like data to react to as far as how things do, and just how you look and present yourself, whether it's on camera or whatever else you're making your videos about. And so I think that don't try and make everything the best video ever when you're beginning, because it will actually get in your way in terms of knowledge. It will get in your way in terms of experience. And so just starting out, like, all right, I'm going to talk about NBA, whatever, a certain set, the Prism set that just came out, or I'm going to, I don't know, call 5 people and I'm going to gift them one of their favorite cards. Like, just do it. Don't worry about the editing software. Don't worry about the audio, to a degree. Like, you do need to have high quality audio, but you don't need to have a big fancy mic the first time you record a video. Like, just make sure it sounds good enough. An iPhone is actually like the greatest piece of content equipment that you could possibly have, or the equivalent if you're not an iPhone user. Like, the technology is just so good. And not to bring everything back to Mr. Beast, but he hit, I can't remember if it's 100,000 or 300,000 subscribers off of nothing but using his iPhone to both film and edit. So it's like, granted, YouTube is a different place now than it was 5-6 years ago, but it's still like, there's other creators out there that are blowing up. They have 100 million subscribers or followers on TikTok using nothing but their phone. So it's like, I get hung up on the details of how it looks and sounds and everything, but like, those things are what you need to perfect once you already know what you're doing. But you can't know what you're doing until you've done 100 things and failed on half or more of them, and just kind of learned along the way. So that would be my advice to younger Nalt and to anybody else that's looking to start a channel, is just go out and do it. And you'll ask for feedback. Ask for feedback and just take it without any personal, like, I tell people this all the time. Anybody that wants to start a YouTube channel, be glad you have 0 subscribers, because your first 10, 15, 20 videos are going to suck. And so be thankful that there's nobody there to actually see you struggle through that. And that's a good thing. That's a blessing. So, but then after 10 videos, 20 videos, you start to get the hang of it. You sound confident. People start finding your stuff, and then you're primed for that moment when it gets there. So that's kind of my outlook on it.
Dude, that's great, man. There's so many good points from it. I think in general, it's so easy to just do what everyone else is doing. Like, specifically in the sports cards community, we've perfected the, like, here's my hands in front of the camera, right? But there's all these other niches that it's like, I have fun trying to figure out what to do next. And a lot of times it doesn't really work perfectly, right? A lot of times it is a dud. But I came into this really having a love for the hobby of sports cards, and I've started a love of the hobby of YouTube, and just trying to understand what it is and how to get better at it. And there's so many things where I'm like, I want to get better at that next video, and I do. And let's say I upgrade that, but then I realize, like, I've started to slack in this other area, or I need to be aware of audio, visual, thumbnail, how I'm editing. And that all is like an enjoyable part of the journey for me. And I've heard, and my thought in all of this is, if I make any money off of this in the long term, that's gravy. Like, this is a good place to start off as a hobby. And I think so many people go to this idea like, dude, if I just get 1,000 clicks of that subscribe button, like, I'm set, I'm in. But if that's your attitude, you're going to get that 1,000, and you had way more than it. You had 141K thousand. I did that right there. And it didn't
I knew what you meant.
And it didn't really matter to what you were trying to do. And so it's just it's a learning curve. That's why I'm so glad that this story could be out there for people to hear from you. Like, this is my experience in it. It's been a ride. It's been awesome. And there's some things to be aware of.
For sure. And I totally agree with like the, you want to reach 1,000 subscribers and you want to get that watch time goal so you can finally be monetized. In reality, like that's an accomplishment, but it's the beginning of your journey. It's not really it's not going to be a factor in terms of actually being monetized in many cases for until you're way past 1,000 subscribers. I mean, my ad revenue on this channel and even on my larger channel, when I was posting videos there and was getting a decent number of views, I mean, it's minuscule. So I would say that you definitely need to just be in love with the content, be in love with the process, because I share the same opinion, Joel, is that I love YouTube. I love figuring it out. Like I see it as a game. And so in addition to loving whatever you post about, like actually figuring out the YouTube side is so much fun.
Dude, and that's what's rad, because it is at the end of the day our only life that we have, right? We should try to enjoy it. And if you're really just focused on only getting this like, hey, I got this goal or I didn't, right? There was days where it's like, I didn't gain any subscribers today. That stinks. It's like, man, that's my day. Like if I can't find a way to enjoy it, we're missing out on it. So any other final thoughts, Nate, that you'd want to throw people's way?
I would just say that, I mean, whether you're trying to be a full-time YouTuber or if you're trying to just like have it on the side, like for a lot of people, YouTube doesn't need to be a full-time job. You can have the stability of doing something else, but then have whatever you make on YouTube is just the cake. It's the sugar on top. Like, so I'm trying to do something because I've always felt that this is the route I was intended to go. And that's my journey. But I think that one big misconception is that everybody is like, well, I need to get to that point where I can quit my job and do all of that. And I think that in a lot of ways that ends up taking the joy out of it for people. And so honestly, I'm now almost not a full year into doing what I'm doing full time, but like a lot of what I was doing has been now I need to do it versus I want to do it. And so that's a journey that I'm currently on, and I'm figuring that out as far as how I'm going to be able to kind of transcend that. But it's something that I would encourage anybody else that's out there is to keep that in mind too. Because it's not a black or white system here. There's plenty of shades of gray as far as like where, if you want to do this, how you can do it and how you can mesh it in with the rest of your life, no matter what age you are.
Totally. Nate, thank you so much for being a part of the 5C series, Conversations with Card Creator Content Communities. Messed up the order, and that's what it is, right? It's a journey, and sometimes you get it right and sometimes you don't, but we appreciate you. Please, if you are watching still, look in the description and go follow Nate. NalterCards, all of his information is right there. We appreciate your time, Nate, and until next time, y'all, keep ripping. Peace.
Thank you, Joel. Everybody subscribe to Joel too if you're new.